Hello, I'm Libby, and welcome to the very first episode of the Unrehearsed First podcast. This is a space where we bring together the art and the artist, exploring the stories, thoughts, and emotions behind the poems. Today, I'm joined by my friend and an incredible poet, Chiara Carenza. We'll be diving into her work and her creative process, learning more about her poetry. Chiara, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us more about your connection to poetry?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on here because it's honestly like a dream come true in a way. I've been thinking recently about poetry and writing more, and I was thinking, oh, how do I, what can I do? I mean, I can write more, but I also want to talk about it to other people. It's like a creative process can get quite lonely, so you do want to be surrounded with people who share that. It feels like a solo sport sometimes. So you do want to have a good community. So yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. So yeah, my name is Chiara. I currently live in the UK, in Bristol, but I'm originally from Switzerland, in the French part. Hence why you can hear a little bit of a funky accent in the background. I have a lot of Americanized words in my vocabulary, so excuse that. I So I was in Wales for a little bit as well for my studies. Didn't pick up on the Welsh accent so much, but I loved my time there. And I met a lot of creative people along the way as well. So I'm sure a lot of them will be on the podcast since we know quite a few common friends that are in that world. And yeah, so that's about me.
Thank you for introducing yourself, Chiara. So would you be able to tell us a little bit more about, when it was that you first fell in love with writing and doing poetry?
Ooh, yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't think I've ever really mentioned it to anyone. Maybe one friend one time. So actually, it was pretty funny because I never thought of myself as a creative person growing up. But I remember there's just specific moment where I thought, oh, maybe I can do this. And I was about 13, maybe. I just had bought two or three tiny little notebooks, like smaller than my hand. And I didn't really know what I was going to do with them. I just knew that I want to have something to write in or draw in or whatever whilst I go on a travel. And a week after we went to Italy for a holiday, one of our yearly kind of visits to our grandparents in Italy, and the trip was like 6 hours. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll just tuck it into the seat pocket in front of me, and when inspiration strikes, maybe I'll do something. I'll scribble in it. I'm really well. I used to draw or do little scribbles, but nothing. I didn't thought of I'm gonna write something.
Yeah.
And we always used to leave around like midnight or like 2 a.m. because there was no traffic at that time. So we packed up, we got in the car, and usually we would always kind of fall asleep, me and my brother, and sleep through the whole trip. But that time, I remember I wasn't really sleepy at all, and I was just looking through the window, like a, dramatic teenager.
Yeah.
I was looking at the stars, and I was just like in a really contemplative sort of moment where I was looking out the window and there was a clear sky, a few stars. And I remember just this feeling of like all of a sudden something drops in my consciousness. Like it feels like someone is literally has dropped from the top of my head into my brain, like a sentence that came through. And the sentence was something like, because I was looking at those two stars, and so the first sentence was like, and like two stars across the night, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. And well, it was in English because my mother tongue is French, but I was starting to kind of consume a lot of English or American content online.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you heard of Tumblr?
Yeah, I know Tumblr.
Yeah, so I was a big Tumblr girl. And yeah, you would get all those quotes and things. And anyway, I was starting, I think, to be, what's the word? I was starting to be exposed to some sort of poetry and writing through Tumblr. And yeah, and I remember just having that phrase drop into my mind. And from that, I picked up my little notebook. I started writing that sentence, and then another sentence came through, and then another one, and then another one. And I had like this four very cute little poem made of four sentences. And it came in, in less than 5 minutes, it was there. And I was just staring at it and thinking, oh, that's quite beautiful. I like it. Like, and, I was kind of in shock almost. I was like, how, I've never written anything before, nothing that seemed beautiful to me. And all of a sudden, this was so easeful and it just came through. And yeah, and that was it. I thought, maybe I can do this, or maybe it's a thing that I'll get into. And yeah, over the years, I just had more and more of these kind of moments just trickling, through me. And over time, I kind of got exposed through school, like for around 13, 14 is when they introduced more poetry and literature into our program at school. So a lot of French classical poetry, and we were analyzing a lot of that as well, because it was that poetry analysis. And I remember just loving that process of just trying to understand what is how complex it can get sometimes, or how simple as well. But usually it was about the complexity of the artist and it's his process. And I remember I just loved it. I had my best grades were in that because I was just obsessed with it. Staying late after the class to speak to the teacher about it. Um, so yeah, I guess that's my long answer to your question.
That's such a beautiful answer. You obviously can't see me right now, but listening to you speak about that and hearing the passion come through and the way you described it all, I've got the biggest smile on my face, because just imagining, like, a little Chiara sat in that car looking up at the
Yeah.
stars. Beautiful. Do you still have that book that you wrote the first poem in? Do you have it?
Yeah, actually I do. It's in Switzerland somewhere. Yeah, it's somewhere.
If you're happy to, you need, next time you go back to Switzerland, you need to send me a copy of that, because I'd love to read that. It sounds
Yeah,
beautiful.
I will. I will. And that little poem, I have it engraved in my mind. It's a little, sometimes I just say it out loud as like a little, I don't know, prayer is a bit of a big word, but it's just like this reminder of like where it started, I guess.
Almost like a grounding thing, is it?
Yeah, little mantra.
And also, obviously, you speak quite a few different languages. So do you ever find that, because I know that a lot of the poems that I've read of yours have been in English, but do you ever find yourself writing either in French or, in like a merge of multiple languages or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. I have written quite a bit in French. Um, Actually, it always started in English, weirdly, because
Yeah.
again, I think I gained a lot of emotional vocabulary through Tumblr, Whereas it's funny how that goes. Like in my mother tongue, even though, I knew more vocabulary when it comes to expressing myself and expressing feelings that those big, big ass feelings that you get as a teenager. Um, Somehow I didn't have the space to, or felt safe to express that in my mother tongue to anyone. So it would just be, like this online space that felt safe and gave me the expressions and the words to express myself. So the first ones were always kind of English, and little by little, because I love French literature and just French language is so beautiful to me. So I kind of ventured in that as well, and eventually I dabbled into Italian with that as well. Tried to kind of research some Italian poets as well. And Polish is the only one that I haven't actually really looked into, just because of all the languages I speak, I'm the less fluent in Polish. I can, yeah, again, I can get away with like conversation day to day, but emotions and things like that, like trying to find like the subtle words or the beauty in words in Polish has not yet come to me.
So maybe we'll get Polish ones from you in a few years' time then.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's really beautiful the way that, you sort of described, writing these English poems, when you were younger, and it's sort of being almost that safe space, like a really safety net. And then you also said that first poem that you ever wrote, it's still something that you sort of say throughout the day. It's sort of like
Yeah.
it's been that safe thing for you, which is really, really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for seeing that.
Right. So obviously you're here to share some of your poetry with us today. So do you know what you'd like to share your first poem, what you'd like it to be?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously we've talked a little bit before this recording today. I sent you two
Yeah.
or three, can't remember now. And yeah, is there one of them that you feel like you preferred, or should I go for it and choose one?
I mean, I love all the poems that you've sent me. I read them all and they're all absolutely beautiful. I think one that stands out to me is the one, I think you said that you wrote it quite recently. And it's the one, I think the first line is, "Today I didn't cry." And the reason I say that is just because sort of, having read this poem, the way that you've sort of like got it laid out on the page, some of like the positioning and stuff like that is quite unique. And
Mm.
so I read it obviously in my voice, and I really, really enjoyed it, but I would love to hear it from you and see sort of how you intended for it to be read and how you intended for it to be heard. So I would really love to hear that one come from you.
Yeah, thank you. I love to. It was actually the one I was hoping you would say, to be honest. Yeah, I wrote it 2 days ago. Yeah, I wrote it 2 days ago. And yeah, it has I always liked to, I'm a very visual person, so I like to sometimes lay out in a nice way, or in a, it kind of, it's such a big process of that. But I guess I'll just yeah, read it out for you, and yeah, just
Please, yeah,
go from there. Okay. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you. Yeah.
So this, I actually don't know if I have a title for this, but I guess because it's really fresh, I think my title will be "Today I Didn't Cry" because it's literally the first line. So, today I didn't cry. I did not cry for the wars that are raging in known and unknown lands. I did not cry the memory of my last embrace with a past lover. I did not cry the years of my innocence, where I got to skip class, experience my first kiss, laugh with friends, discover the flavors of art during French literature class. I did not cry my nonna's laughter. I did not. I did. I I felt. I felt cries. I felt cries pouring into my lungs. I felt cries that met my heart with the same vigor of a mother who runs down the train platform to meet her son that she thought was dead. I felt cries on my skin, as soft as the gaze of a young father who's in shock at the beauty of its born child when they are brought to his arms for the first time. I felt cries that could end wars, cries that heal lovers' wounds, cries that inspire eternal youth, cries as ancient as Nonna's tomato sauce recipe. I felt these deep aches of something ancient saying, "She is back. Welcome home."
That's really beautiful, Chiara. That's such an amazing poem. I really felt that. I really felt that through me when you read it. It felt so reflective, so moving, so beautiful. It's absolutely an incredible piece. I really, really like that. And the reflection of sort of your nonna at the beginning and then later on through it, the repetition of the word cry, the way it sort of shifts throughout the poem. I think it's such an amazing piece. Could you tell us a bit more about what inspired this piece?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It feels good to hear how someone receives it,
It's amazing. I really, really liked that.
Yeah, and I know everyone will receive it differently. And it's funny you mentioned, the nonna and my grandmother in Italy, because I remember I think you suggested, for me to come on the podcast a few days ago or last week. I can't remember now. And you were giving like an example or something. And I think you mentioned your own grandmother in there, like as an example.
I did, yeah.
And like when I was writing this piece, I remember this comment that you made came to my mind. So it kind of fed the process of me adding her in there.
Oh, that's very sweet. Oh, that's really beautiful. I like that there's a little touch of that in there. That's really, really lovely.
Yeah, but no, thank you for inspiring that, because yeah, I was thinking of our conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, what happened on the day I wrote this is actually I went on a big walk.
Yeah.
I went on a big walk. It was a guided walk, actually. I've never done that before in a forest here around.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the park or the forest now. It's part of the Woodland Trust. And it was a guided walk by this woman that I met a couple of months ago. And she said that basically she's this tree consultant and arborist. And I got really interested in how she got into it. And at the end, she said, yeah, I do these walks as well, guided walks, where I take people through like a 2 hour walk. I talk about the trees, the mushrooms, everything, the folklore, and yeah, and then at the end we have a forest bathing experience. So I was like, oh my God, this is I need this. um, gosh, I need this. And yeah, I said, well, sign me up. At the same time, she was telling me about how she's reading a book called Awakening Your Inner Witch or something like this. So anyway, you know me, we got on straight away.
Yeah. Sounds very you.
So yeah, she was amazing. It was just me, another woman, and her. She was talking about the trees, and it was a very passionate woman. Yeah, you could really just feel how knowledgeable and just passionate she is. And throughout the whole thing, she did an incredible job at making us stop to look at the forest in a different way,
Yeah.
and to really connect with this piece of treasure, and to sometimes you could walk by a bush and not really notice anything about it, and she was really good at just putting it in a different light and just extracting the beauty out of it. And I feel like that's what we do when we write, like we're trying to extract beauty and or meaning or or just not even extracting if it's already there. You just you can shine your view on how you see the world and present that to other people and connect over that. So she did that, and I just left this walk feeling really, well, at first feeling very peaceful and feeling like I just connected to this forest in a different way. And I remember walking and be like, oh, like this is gonna give me material to to sit with and write later on.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what or how. I just, it's a lot of what I learned about the process of writing is you just gotta trust. Sometimes I remember being in a hurry in the past of like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this something right now, like I need to put it on paper straight away.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes you want to marinate in that, and it's not gonna go away. It's just like taking seed.
Mm.
So yeah, I remember walking and she was talking about those trees and the folklore as at some point she told us to, go with a tree, and she said, let's do a tree greeting. And you choose a tree and you greet it however you want. You can take some deep breaths, and then eventually she said, you can also try to breathe with it, and realize that when you breathe in, you're breathing in oxygen that they breathe out, and when you breathe out, you're giving them CO2 that they breathe in, and things like that. And I was like, this is just, so good, so juicy. um, and I remember having the feeling of like an ache in my chest throughout the whole walk. I was really, really aware of an ache in my chest, and I wasn't really trying to make sense of it. I just knew that it's a familiar ache. I think that I would feel when something, you're witnessing something beautiful or something different, or so. I made notes of that, and then I came back to it later in the day, and I was talking to my boyfriend about it, and I told him I just loved it. I was feeling this ache of something ancient coming through, and I wrote that to him, and then I thought, this is like, I can use that in a poem. So that's the one of the last lines about talking about that deep ache. And so I sat down with that ache, and that's part of my process a lot, is to get in touch with how something feels inside me, how I receive it, and then trying to put words on that, and really getting curious about the feelings that something is evoking in me. So I remember sitting down with that feeling and thinking, yeah, this is an ache, okay? Like, what, is it an ache that makes me want to cry? Like, do I want to cry about it, or do I want to, what's this? And I remember when I asked the question, am I, do I want to cry with this ache? It was like, no, I don't. I don't want to cry with this. So I kept questioning it and thinking, okay, it's not a cry. So what is it? I just decided to start writing and just see what's the answer. What was the answer? What's can the process show me what this is? I decided to start with that sentence. Today I didn't cry.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about all the things that we usually cry about, or all the things that are happening today in the world. And it's not to say that I don't cry about those things, but to say that today wasn't about crying about something. It wasn't about the feeling the lack of something, or feeling that you're missing something. I think I've been very reflective about this concept of abundance for the past few years. I think we can get very stuck on the lack of things, or like what we're not having, what we're missing, and like we need to gather more and more and more.
Yeah.
So, and it's fair, like this has its place. Like it's not to say that this is a bad thing. It's just that sometimes our focus can be, I think, a little bit too present on that aspect of things. The practice of kind of abundance, or bringing that into a habit in my day, has just shifted my life in a huge way. So I thought, yeah, of all the things that we usually cry about, but I was not crying about that day. And so that's how the first part of the poem came through. And then I remember, so that's where that layout is a bit different. I was trying to write another phrase after, after the last one about my nonna, and I wrote I did not. I was thinking about one more thing, and then I thought, oh well, this is it. Like there's something else that wants to come through right now. It's like brewing. So I tried to slowly come out of it, and so that's what you can see in the layout. It's like it's diluting. So it's like I did, and then and then what's the new thing that wants to come through? It's what is happening now, and it's I always really try to drop in my body when I write. I used to be very like mind based when I wrote, and now it's more like both body mind. Is like there's no well, you know what I do. I'm an osteopath, so there's, to me, body and mind and soul is all the same. So you've got to listen to all of it. So then I thought, okay, what am I feeling? And so it came up as I felt. And I was trying to bring myself back to the moment in the forest, and feel into what's this ache like. And it feels like there's some cries, actually. It feels like if I gave this ache a voice, I'm hearing cries. And those, it's like vague and still for me. It's like there are cries. Is it of happiness? Is it of of sadness? And I didn't have a clear answer, but felt like it felt like this feeling of like it's pouring into me rather than it's coming out of me. So that's why I wanted that clear cut between the two sections. Of the first section is about crying. It's about like you have tears flowing out of you. It's like you're feeling like you're missing something. There's a lack, so like you're losing something. And the second one is about how something is pouring into you, and feeling like the abundance of it, even though it hurts because it's an ache, right? So, and then I had a visual. When I tune in, sometimes I get those like big visuals, and I had this visual of a mother running on, a train platform, meeting someone she thought was dead, like from a war. And because I thought this is the feeling of, like the forest and the trees, like I think, I'm assuming a lot here, but I kind of like the image of like trees like being happy about us turning, to them, and they're like, oh my God, look at this human. It's finally like, connecting to its ancient witchy like wisdom, like folklore, like everything. It's coming back to the forest, and it's appreciating it and seeing us. It's like this happiness of like, oh my God, like it's back. So, and the forest in a lot of cultures is it's feminine. It's the mother. It's the Amazon forest is seen as the mother of forests, and in I think Latin America, if I'm not mistaken. And then I thought, okay, that's the mother. How about the father? And so I made a little section about a father, you know, and because I was feeling like my skin feeling like almost like something that someone was like caressing my skin as I was coming back to this realization. And I thought of a father who's like, you know, and I thought, what's the moment where fathers are like the softest with kids almost, you know? And I had this image come through when like they're in shock and they're like holding a baby. And so that was that. And the next section is about just associating it to the first section. So, you know, how do I marry both now? And so I felt the cries that could end the wars that, you know, I wrote in the first section. Heal lovers' wounds, inspire eternal youth. So that's to reference about that innocence that I was talking about earlier. And then again, just tying it back to my numbness. And I have a feeling like tomato recipes are like really ancient. Like maybe more ancient than this world itself. So yeah, and so at the end I just tie it with a bow with this feeling of like, oh, like she's back, you know, like welcome home to this space that we forgot, that a lot of us forgot.
Yeah, there's so much in this poem. I think it's so beautiful hearing you talking about like what inspired it and the process of making it. Just like, you know, you spoke a lot about having like these sort of like bodily sensations whilst you're writing it, you know, having the visuals, feeling a caress, stuff like that, and how these sort of things were happening whilst you were writing it, and then how they manifested themselves within that poem.
Mm.
And also there was something you spoke about, yeah, like obviously I said when you first read it to me, I was saying about there was this sort of sense of like release, but I feel like you describing it and your connection to the forest, you know, the fact that you were in the forest when you started writing it and it was all this sort of begun the poem, it really highlighted this sense of catharsis, this healing sensation through it, that connection. And hearing you talk about it and how it's sort of connecting the self to nature, stuff like that. It's so beautiful hearing you talk about the process, and I feel like it adds so much more depth to the poem. Like, it was already such an incredible poem, you know, with a lot of depth in it, but then hearing you talk about each line and where they all came from and how much inspiration, you know, how much you drew upon to create this piece is amazing. And I also really do love which you spoke about, that split where you go from the I did, I did not, I did not, I did, I felt cries, you know, that bit where you do create like a really active shift within the poem, which brings you from that sort of the cries and, you know, what was happening then to the present moment in there, really, with that connection. I think it's absolutely fantastic. There's so much going on here. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for receiving that so deeply. No, it's always such a pleasure to read it to someone. I used to feel very shy about it, and then you start sharing one little thing, and then you see people's reaction and how people receive it in different ways. Again, it's very special. It's very, very special. So thank you.
What is it that so obviously, you know, I've heard where it came from you, and I've sort of shared what I heard in it and what I felt through that. What is it that you want, like, people that read or listen to that poem, what do you want them to feel?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. And I think I was thinking of that as you were talking. I think you said it. I think I just want them to feel. I think there's no, there's no saying what I want someone to feel. I just want someone to, I hope someone reads a piece of art and feels the ripples of what it's doing inside them, and then they can get curious about it, because this has been a process for me to get in touch with my feelings, and I know as humans we're really, really good at um, judging what we feel, and because like there's so many beliefs and stories that we layer onto our inside sensations, and like, we feel one emotions, and all of a sudden we have like 1,000 beliefs that surge with it, and we don't know what to believe, or we get very confused, and then it gets overwhelming, and we suppress all that, and that's how depression, in my opinion, arises, because we don't have a way of expressing, so it depresses in our systems, right? So I hope that people read it and just allow space, and that it can be a safe space, and they allow space to feel and get curious about it rather than judgmental, and just see, play with that. Maybe it inspires a piece of art in themselves, and then that can be their outlet and their expression. There's no particular meaning that I think I'd like someone to get out of this. So this is a piece that is pretty self-explanatory in a way. Like, I feel like a lot of people would read this, and we all would have like similar, if we had to do a summary of it, a lot of people would say similar things. However, most of my early poems were very like cryptical. um, and from there, like, you could do like have thousands of meanings, and it would be hard for everyone to be on the same page about what the poem is about. But yeah, I think my message here that I would love to get out in the whole world is, allow yourself to feel, create some space in your life where it's safe to feel, because that's how creative processes are fed, in my opinion. I mean, most humans are like emotional beings, right? Like, it's quite rare to meet someone who by nature or by personality is more mental rather than emotional, at least in my circles. Like, I've met people who are a lot more like mental, and like that's where they thrive, and that's fine. But for all of us artists, I think most of us are emotional beings. I might change my mind on that the more people I meet, but I hope that people can find safe spaces to feel, because this is I mean, you hear it all the time, like art heals people's hearts, and it can be such a beautiful tool. Hence why some therapists, they use art in their sessions or all of that. So yeah, I think that would be my message to everyone.
Yeah, I like that. I like the simplicity in it of, the feelings are there and they're sort of coming through for everyone. It's just sort of there to create that space for other people to tune in and feel whatever it is that they get out of it. It's very like that personal nature of it, the connection, which obviously shone through the poem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing this poem. It's been absolutely fantastic listening to it and going through sort of your processes with it, the connection it has to you, and how you sort of want that to go forward and connect with other people. Just for, anyone that sort of listened to this poem today and found that they really connect with your work, is there somewhere that they can find you or read some more of your pieces?
Yeah, of course. At the moment, I am on Instagram. It's Chiara.Carenza. And yeah, this is where it's my little platform. It's not just a writing thing. I call it my boogie writing and other playful, I can't remember what I find my description, but it's a little bit of a mishmash of things. However, I am currently thinking about how to make it a little bit more writing focused. So you might find me just coming up with new things. So you can follow me on there, and just staying tuned with any other things. I also have been having the long project of actually coming up with a poetry book at some point. So I hope to come up with that in the next year or so. Yeah.
That sounds like some really exciting stuff happening there, lots of movement. What
Yeah.
I'll do is I will tag your Instagram in the description so that if anyone wants to find you, they can. And maybe, we can get you on again because you've got so many amazing poems, and we can go for another one. And maybe at that point, we'll also have you with a book. All right. Thank you so much again for coming on today. I've really, really enjoyed listening to your poem and talking to you about it. It's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much, Chiara.
Thank you. You're a wonderful host. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much again, Chiara, for joining us today, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Unrehearsed Verse podcast. We have new episodes on the way, so be sure to follow us on our socials, which are tagged below. Until next time.